Hi, I'm Spider. I'm back for the third and final set on the CFL's decision from Halifax. And before I get started, I'd like to apologize for the poor video quality because I'm using a 10-year-old video camera with old technology, and also apologize for some of my stumbles on my last session and a couple mistakes I made that I'm going to correct for you now on the main objective and features and benefit part of my presentation at number 3, when I said, and when from a fan's perspective, a second down in the red zone is more disappointing than a 2-and-out. I meant to say, from a fan's perspective, a second down stop in the red zone is more disappointing than a 2-and-out. And on my 18% guarantee, I like to correct another mistake I made when I said if you take 58.8 by mistake percent and multiply it by 33% based on an increase of one more down in the red zone. I meant to say if you take 54.8% and multiply it by 33% based on an increase of one more down in the red zone, you get an 18% increase of touchdown conversions scored in the red zone. Okay, so now to get into my third and final session, there's some very important timelines to make note of here. On January 31st of 2018, when I made my formal presentation on my CFL Red-Zone Rule to the Commissioner and to the CFL, Mr. Ambrosi left for his Randy road trip from Montreal, ended up in Halifax on February 23rd, back in the CFL office on February 26th, and all of a sudden on February 27th at 2018 at 5:34 p.m. Halifax time, I received this 2-page email from Ryan Jensen, the Senior Director of Football Operations, that I'm about to read you now. Spider, it was a pleasure speaking to you a few weeks ago. We commend you for your passion and data you provided during your presentation. Here's some data I tracked down since our call. The average scoring per game in the CFL versus the NFL. CFL 2017, 53.1. The NFL 2017, 43.4. We are scoring almost 10 points per game more than the NFL. As a league, we're scoring 4 more points per game since 2015. The number of punts per game in the CFL versus the NFL. CFL 2017, 12.43. NFL 2017, 9.6. The number of punts per CFL game is down 8% since 2015, so we're trending in the right direction. The percentage of 2-and-outs per 3-and-outs in the CFL versus the NFL. CFL 31.6%, NFL 24%. Considering the extra down in the NFL, these percentage differences are not earth-shattering in our mind. These numbers provide us with some context for our discussion of your concept. We discussed it at length here in League office, and we also spoke with football personnel at some of our teams to gauge their feedback on your concept. We were all intrigued by your concept. However, as we talked it through, we felt it was a little too drastic of a change for something we feel doesn't need that big of an overhaul. You're right, a touchdown is a much more exciting play than a field goal, but we discussed the reduced strategy that will result in a field goal attempt is virtually guaranteed for a team. And as I indicated, scoring is trending in the right direction, and we believe so is excitement surrounding our game. So we have come to our decision. We are not going to proceed with your concept at this time. This decision comes after a long discussion with you. We enjoyed that and appreciate you taking the time to talk with us so we could fully understand your proposal. And our decision also comes after a lot of thought and review. But this is our decision. Just as we have a lot of respect for you and the work and passion you put into your concept, we ask you to respect our decision. You can do that by accepting it and resisting the impulse to keep emailing the Commissioner and us about it. I thought that was a real cheap shot and a real ignorant and rude comment he made. We may revisit this decision one day, he says, especially if scoring trends in a negative direction in future years. If we decide to do so, we will reach out to you, but we hope you accept this decision at this time. Thank you again for your enthusiasm, time, and insights. Randy and all of us hope you really enjoy the up-and-coming season. Signed, Ryan. Not even signed by the Commissioner, not even written by the Commissioner of the CFL, Mr. Ambrosi. So I thought about this for a couple of weeks, and I fired back with my own email and I sent it to Ryan and the Commissioner. And immediately after I sent the email, on March 16th, 2018, around 8 a.m. Halifax time, I received an email back from the Commissioner, Mr. Ambrosi, asking me if I wanted to discuss it, and he left a phone message on my machine asking me to call head office. I assumed he wanted to talk about the email and the contents of in my email I sent him and Ryan. So I thought about this for a while, and out of courtesy, I sent him an email back explaining why I didn't contact him, because I wasn't basically buying anything he had to say. So I'm about to read some comments from the email I sent to the Commissioner and to Ryan, and this is without prejudice, okay? Here are some of my comments. Ryan's number, his first number, average scoring in a CFL game versus an NFL game. Well, he forgot to calculate the most important part within his 53.1 number, and that is how many touchdowns are being scored versus how many field goals are being scored for points in the CFL in the red zone or slightly outside the red zone, which is the most important number and stat in this particular case, that he completely ignored and avoided in order to do a fair analysis and to do a fair assessment and evaluation of my full presentation and my second version of my proposed new CFL Red-Zone Rule. So Ryan, where's that number? Why didn't you provide and report that number, which is the most important number? And you said you did a thorough review and put a lot of thought and time into this. Just by what I see in your email and the short time frame involved here to make such an unsupported, speedy, and abrupt and impetuous decision indicates to me that you and the Commissioner put very little effort or any into this, because you and the Commissioner, Mr. Ambrosi, had no plans of even doing so from the get-go. Number two, the real truth is to sell the game of football any more than a total of 4 field goals in a football game is too many. Because football fans don't go to football games to see field goals, they go to football games to see touchdowns being scored. So Ryan, where is that real stat of 6 to 8 field goals in a CFL game by one team, where in too many cases, many of them are non-eventful, easy chip shot field goals because of too many second down stops in the red zone? Where's that stat, Ryan? Number 3, Ryan's other numbers in his email, the percentage of 2 and outs in the CFL versus 3 and outs in the NFL. Again, it's not an accurate comparison or a number, and just another cover-up number, because where is the actual second down stop number in the red zone in the CFL, which is the most important number versus the NFL's overall 3 down stop number on an NFL field? Because a second down stop in the red zone is much more magnified in the CFL and a much bigger turnoff and bigger killer of a 3 down game than a 2 and out between the red zone in the CFL, which is still a big turnoff and even a bigger turnoff when they are compiled. And remember also in the NFL, 2 and outs don't even exist. And in the red zone in the NFL, 3 down stops aren't near the turnoff as a second down stop in the red zone in the CFL. Not even comparable, because in the NFL they have a 4th down that they can still use in the red zone to score a touchdown. But in relation to Ryan's number, that again is totally avoiding the real numbers he should be providing in the red zone, which are the CFL versus the NFL, and second down stops in the red zone in the CFL versus 3 down stops in the red zone in the NFL. Ryan, where are those real numbers? As well, I don't believe I would be bragging about a number where the NFL is 33% better, nor would I be bragging about a number of punts per game in the CFL versus the NFL, where again the NFL is 33% better. But again, Ryan, where are the most important numbers of how many second down stops are there in the red zone, resulting in more boring, predictable, non-eventful, easy chip shot field goals? And Ryan, I didn't know you could kick a punt in the red zone, because isn't this supposed to be about red zone numbers, not punts? Unbelievable. Number 4. And Ryan, how could you possibly present it properly and professionally to anybody, and especially to personnel on CFL teams, when you didn't even understand it during my presentation, and certainly didn't know all the compelling features and benefits and all the justifiable advantages of my rule, not only from the entertaining side, not only from the entertaining value side of my rule, but from the business side of my rule as well, when you didn't even consult with me or send me any questions like you said you would, nor did the Commissioner. That would confirm and prove to me that you didn't fully review it and didn't fully understand it or know it and know all the features and benefits of my rule, and all advantages of my rule from the entertainment side and the business side of my rule as well before you could possibly and properly and professionally present it in full to the owners and presidents and to the CEOs of the CFL. Let's be honest here, Ryan. We know that you and the commissioner didn't fairly weigh all the features and benefits and advantages of my rule and apply Jeff Hunt's pros and cons theory like you said you were going to do, because if you would have, the pros clearly and decisively outweigh the cons, and the advantages of adopting it conclusively far outweigh any disadvantages, which anybody with any kind of a sports brain can figure out. Like Mr. Armitage said to me, make sure the CFL recognizes and pushes all the valuable, compelling features and benefits and all the convincing, justifiable advantages of my rule and all the key selling points. And he said, then it's a no-brainer, which you obviously didn't do, Ryan, which you and the commissioner obviously didn't do. Sorry. Number 5. And Ryan, you said you felt it was too drastic of a rule change. This is totally ludicrous and entirely incorrect, because the rule currently exists now in the CFL. CFL teams now, every time they're in the red zone on offense, can choose to play exciting CFL 3-down football. But the problem is they don't. So how can you say it's too drastic of a rule change when the rule is already in place? Because the rule certainly isn't a rule that states you can only use 2 downs in the red zone in the CFL to score a touchdown, and if you don't, you must kick another easy chip shot field goal for 3 points. Even though it seems like it is, because that's what they do most of the time, except when they are on the 1-yard line on 3rd down in the red zone in the CFL. The only difference now, it would be enforced. So, okay, no different than any other enforcement rules that the CFL have changed and have made enforcement rules. In relation to another one of Ryan's comments about when he said basically a non-eventful easy chip shot field goal, okay, because of a 2nd down stop in the red zone is practically guaranteed. But that's the problem, because how many times in the CFL, when CFL teams are in the red zone on offense and are stopped in 2nd down and kick another boring, predictable, non-eventful, easy chip shot field goal, you hear CFL fans booing loudly because they want their team in offense to go for it in 3rd down in the red zone to score a touchdown. Because the last thing football fans want to see is basically CFL 2-down football in the red zone, resulting in another boring, non-eventful, easy chip shot field goal. So Ryan, this doesn't stand up. And Ryan, where's my CFL red zone kick? Where is that? Why didn't you cover that? Number 6. Ryan basically said our 3-down game is in great shape by saying that the excitement surrounding our game is trending upward. Well, if that was true, why are there so many sports fans in Canada only watching the NFL and not the CFL, and not even watching the Grey Cup in our own country, which is exactly what my survey was all about, that you, Ryan, and the commissioner didn't even acknowledge or respect or give any credit to, and why? And if our 3-down game is in such great shape, then why are there so many empty seats throughout the CFL, and Toronto and Montreal and BC stadiums virtually empty, when in the same cities, MLS soccer teams are full? And Montreal, just recently, after spending $35 million to expand their stadium to 25,000 from 20,000, now all of a sudden they want to reduce it to 20,000. I thought the commissioner, Mr. Ambrosi, said he wanted to make the CFL bigger. Well, it's being made smaller. Number 7. Ryan, you said in your email that we made our decision after a long discussion with you, and we aren't going to proceed with your concept at this time. What long discussion with me? After I completed my presentation, we only discussed it for barely 30 minutes or less, and only a few questions were asked, when you and the commission didn't even fully understand it and wanted me to email you a PDF copy so you could review it and understand it more, and then said you would send me more questions after you reviewed it, which I didn't receive one question on, not one. And Ryan, you said in your email, our decision comes with a lot of thought and review. You really expect me to believe that statement? Come on. The real truth is it was totally underemphasized, with total insufficient emphasis put on any of my compelling features and benefits, and any of my justifiable advantages of my rule, nor any of the key selling points, not one, nor any emphasis put on any of the factual evidence or any of the factual numbers and the very strong, important data I presented and provided you both in my presentation. The other part of 7. Ryan, you also said in your email that you had a lot of respect for the work and effort I put into my final finished product and my second version of my proposed new CFL Red-Zone Rule. So if that is true, then why didn't you and the Commissioner respect it a lot more and put the same amount of effort and time and work I put into it to fairly and properly assess it and evaluate it and do a thorough analysis on before you made your final decision like the Commissioner promised me he would do? And why didn't you apply Jeff Hunt's pros and cons theory like the Commissioner also promised me he would do before any final decision was made? Do you know why? Is it because you and the Commissioner know and I know that there would be no contest here? I know that my super exciting second version of my proposed new CFL Red-Zone Rule would win hands down, and that's exactly why you and the Commissioner didn't apply it. Number 8. Ryan, in relation to your quote basically warning me not to ever, send another email to the Commissioner, to us, referring to yourself in relation to my CFL Red-Zone Rule. Just for your information, Ryan, and to set the record straight, the emails I sent to the Commissioner, Mr. Ambrosi, prior to my presentation on January 31st of 2018 pertaining to my second version of my proposed new CFL Red-Zone Rule, he didn't even acknowledge or read, because Mr. Ambrosi knew nothing about my rule during my presentation, nor knew anything about Steve Armitage's stamp approval of my rule and the emails he sent me that I sent to the Commissioner, Mr. Ambrosi, which again he didn't even acknowledge or read. And as far as yourself goes, Ryan, the PDF copy email of my presentation I sent you along with my follow-up Better Answers document were the first and only emails I ever sent you. Unbelievable. Number 9. Just on one other Ryan's comments in his email, and Ryan said, we will revisit this decision one day. That he basically said if especially if scoring is trending down in future years. Well, when, Ryan? When we're all dead? Or when it's too late? And when the CFL is practically out of business and dead too, which the data shows is trending that way. So, Ryan, what about the obvious and most important trend over the last 10 years in the CFL, where the average percentage of touchdowns scored in the red zone in the CFL amongst 9, 8, and now 9 teams in a completed regular CFL season has been consistently between 50 and under 55%, which is not good enough and doesn't sell CFL 3-down football, and will never respectively and consistently improve unless the second version of my proposed new CFL Red Zone Rule is made part of our CFL 3-down game, which is the real trend the CFL should be concerned about and focused on. And I just saw the 2018 average of touchdowns scored in the red zone amongst 9 CFL teams, and it was 54.7, and last year it was 54.8, so it's trending downward. And also, the Scotch and Rough Riders last year had 100 2-and-outs, and they were last in touchdowns scored in the red zone with a percentage average of only 37.5%. They were the lowest. Can you imagine that? The CFL can't stay at this current state. They need to definitely change. Okay? And there's just a couple, 2 other questions, that were asked by Ryan during my presentation, when there was very few questions asked, by the way, that my son's actually answered that I'd like to read to you. Ryan's first question: wouldn't CFL teams run the ball 3 times every time they're in the red zone using my CFL Red Zone Rule? My son's answer was, do NFL teams in offense in the red zone run the ball 3 times every time they're in the red zone? Because they have 3 downs to use in the red zone. My son said, I believe the answer is they don't. And said they could actually run the ball 4 times consecutively in the red zone. And again, my son said the answer is they don't. And my son said if this was true, 4-down football wouldn't work, period. And that's not the case, because it does work and it's overwhelmingly popular. Ryan's other question, Ryan was afraid there would be now too many big plays and too many big passing plays now in the CFL with my CFL Red Zone Rule. My son said, how could there be possibly too many big exciting plays and too many big passing plays in a CFL 3-down football game when you basically have only 2 downs to get a first down and to score a touchdown? And he said when CFL fans and football fans in general all want to see big plays and big passing plays in the CFL that my son said our 3-down game definitely lacks, because my son said there are way too many 2-and-outs between the red zone and between the red zones in the CFL now, and even worse, way too many unappealing second down stops in the red zone in the CFL now as well, resulting in more and too many boring, predictable, non-eventful, easy chip shot field goals that no football fan wants to see, especially in a 3-down football game. So that concludes my countering argument. Okay, you judge for yourself. Okay, but myself, I feel my intelligence was really insulted here, and it was very humiliating of them, and very disingenuous and demeaning, very demeaning of them, and you know, there's no way that possibly I expected this to be adopted for the 2018 season. Okay, but the possibility to be adopted for the 2019 season was very doable. Okay, and I certainly didn't expect it, you know, because there was a lot of information that had to be processed and assessed and evaluated in 27 days for them to make a decision. Okay, but you know, and also furthermore, during my presentation, okay, there was only one executive staff member, okay, at the table, okay, Mr. Maychuk, and he basically had no say, and he was the chief communication officer. Ryan wasn't on the executive staff, and he had basically a lot to say, and too much to say, because where was the executive staff members? Okay, where was, okay, the other executive staff members, that being the chief operation financial officer, and the chief revenue officer, and the chief marketing officer, and the VP of football operations, Mr. McDonald, all on the executive staff. Why weren't they at the table during my presentation? I know why. Because like my son said, this was a setup from the beginning. To have me and my CFL Red Zone go away, and basically because they didn't come up with it themselves. But as you see, I'm not going away. And I'm going to be all over social media and all over radio. And from now on, it's going to be Spiders opposing the CFL Red Zone Rule. And by the way, you can play a big part and have a real voice here, because the next time you're at a CFL game, okay, in a live setting in a CFL stadium, and you see your team on offense in the red zone, stopped on second down, and your team refuses to go for it again and again on third down, and won't go for it in third down to score a touchdown in the red zone, and kick another boring, predictable, non-eventful, easy chip shot field goal. And many times I've heard CFL fans booing loudly because naturally they want their team, okay, in the red zone and third down to go for a touchdown. Okay, I want you to replace that loud booing with loud chanting. We want Spiders CFL Red Zone Rule. We want Spiders CFL Red Zone Rule. And there's a question I want to ask you. Okay, a very important question I want to ask you. Okay, why would you want to watch an ugly and undesirable brand of CFL 3-down football in the red zone and watch more boring, distasteful, non-eventful, easy chip shot field goals that no football fan wants to see, more than watching more touchdowns being scored in the red zone in the CFL? When every single CFL game, you could be watching a much more entertaining brand of CFL 3-down football that's full of drama, and a much more exciting brand of CFL 3-down football in the red zone, which Spiders naturally tailor-made for CFL 3-down football, with Spiders CFL Red Zone Rule, complemented by Spiders' new compatible CFL Red Zone kick that will soar and roar in CFL stadiums and around the football world. Okay, so you haven't heard the last, okay, of me and my CFL Red Zone Rule. Stay tuned, because there's a lot more to come. Okay, and you can play a big part. And remember, okay, without fans, the CFL doesn't even exist. Okay, so you can play a big role here and have a big voice. Okay, and I want to hear you chant loud. We want Spiders CFL Red Zone Rule. Okay, okay, we want Spiders CFL Red Zone Rule. Okay, I want to end by thanking all the over 350 CFL fans and football fans in general, and NFL only fans, and you, the younger generation fans, and CFL and players and former CFL players and 2 former Ottawa Rough Rider players, CIS and former CIS players, minor football and high school football players and coaches. I want to thank you all. You were all actually blown away and all sold on it, and all want to see it made part of a CFL 3 down game, and basically who all understood it very easily and very quickly because they really tuned in to understand it and understand it quite easily. Okay, also I'd like to thank my amazing son, who's been behind my CFL Red-Zone Rule project from the beginning for 4.5 years, big time, and Jared, who was on my panel, and also Mr. Gorski and Carl, his son, who helped me, and as well Rick Howell, where I launched it the first time in Halifax locally, okay, my CFL Red-Zone Rule, and Mr. Jamie Nine also, where I launched it nationally for the first time on this Green Zone show, and also Steve Armitage, who's been behind it, stamp approval of my CFL Red-Zone Rule big time. And as well, I'd like to thank Mr. Vanstone, who allowed me to write an article, actually, when I had it called the Inside the Red Zone Rule, and the Regina Leader Post, when the title was Red Zone Offense Focus of Proposed Rule Change, the Red Zone Offense Focus of Proposed Rule Change. Thank you very much, Mr. Vanstone, and by the way, he's a real nice guy. So that concludes my CFL Red Zone Rule presentation. And I'd like to sign off this time by giving a toast to the Maritime Football League, okay, and the Atlantic Schooners, and to Bo Levi Mitchell, okay. This is out, and okay, and hopefully the Maritime Football League has great success from the quest for the 10th CFL franchise team. Here, boom. Okay, this is for you, Bo Levi Mitchell, signing off. Spider. A lot more to come.